Welcome back to another reading and correcting. With me, Kinder, the Tiger Lights, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 87 of The Captain's Heart. And as an update to a previous report, the male voice said, "Maybe we should give our new listeners a rundown of what happened first, Harry?" The female said. The male chuckled. "Do you really think we have enough of those who haven't listened to our previous report, Alice?" "Well, considering what Earth government did to someone they so admired, I'm thinking more people are going to want a different point of view than the government approved one." Gralgiran paused the recording. Despite the seriousness of what they often reported in this specific story, there was an air of camaraderie between the voices he associated on with packmates on the front line after days and weeks of combat. You had to find lightness in the darkness if you wanted to keep your sanity. "Any luck finding where they broadcast from?" he asked the beta seated on the other side of his desk. Patrick Jezbel shook his head. "They are being picked up by too many ships and stations who bounce the signal to pinpoint them easily." Okay, that needs to be reworking. Being bounced. Picking up the signal. They are being bounced by too many ships and stations, picking up stations, plural. Picking up the signal to pinpoint them easily. We're looking into the delays of each signal we receive to work out where they came from, and that might help us narrow the origin point. Although I'm not sure what that will achieve. They aren't breaking Federation law, and I doubt the Earthers will come on to hunt them down here. I doubt the Earthers will hunt them down here. And down? Well, they are planetary. They are from a planet, so yeah. They came after Jeremy. Keeping the anger from mounting was still difficult. A week and 3 sessions with a psychologist wasn't enough to make him accept he'd done all he could. Yes, but with all due respect to these Earthers and the work they do in letting any of their people who sought refuge within the Federation, he is your heart, while they, he shrugs. He shrugged. I don't see the Earther government caring that much about what people outside their territory hear. Gralgiran nodded. It's curiosity on my part. Who are they? What kind of people are they? Are they doing this seeking some sort of fame among their people? He sighed. I haven't met many good examples of Earthers, and I'd like to be able to confirm they don't act in self-interest. The beta chuckled. We aren't all like you, Alpha. Most of us like to make sure we are seen to before the rest of our people. Gralgiran snorted. I'm as self-interested as you or any of the hunters who dedicate themselves to keeping our people safe. Then I think you can accept they can be like us, looking for something for themselves and putting out these broadcasts while also wanting to help as many as possible. He nodded and started the replay. 8 days ago now, the male Harry said, a group of humans infiltrating Ashgoran station for Federation. That should be station. Asgoran station. And kidnapped technician Jeremy Bradshaw. Those who have been with us for a while will recognize the name as that of the Kelsirian hunter captain Gralgiran Selhalavni's heart. The captain rescued him from Einstein Station, where he was one of their top researchers, until arrested for the crime of loving another man. As you all know, I'm certain, Alice took over, the Earth government is adamant in stating that no human is capable of having so deep feelings for someone of the same sex. And while many of us proved them wrong and found asylum here within the Federation, we are anonymous enough the government didn't notice us. Technician Jeremy Bradshaw, on the other hand, Harry continued, was already a known name within the antimatter research community, not only for some of his discoveries, but because of his bravery in the face of danger. Working at the forefront of antimatter has more than once put the station in danger, as scientific experiments have had unforeseen results. The technician, one of the two lead researchers on Einstein, was pivotal in keeping the station safe in many of those cases without care for his own safety. He had earned the nickname of a little warrior well before it was given to him by his heart, Alice said with a chuckle. A tilted ear returned a shake of the head from the beta. They still had no idea where they'd gotten that piece of information. Like the others, the broadcaster had mentioned, it wasn't sensitive information, but it pointed to them having a source of information aboard the Bane. Technician Jeremy Bradshaw was rescued by his hardened pack of hunters, Harry said, but not before he was subjected to a recent piece of technology that is purported to cure the sickness of the Earth government claims loving someone of the same gender is. While the rescue took place before the process was finished, Alice continued, damage was done. The technician was taken to a station's medical bay where a Ridoshi mentalist diagnosed this condition. It is grim, Harry said, but there is hope. The machine gave the technician an irrational... He stopped, not needing to hear this again. There's more, Alpha, which I think you will want to hear. Then advance it to there, he breathed, along with reminding him not everything that happened was his fault, or that failure didn't always fall on his shoulders. The psychologist reminded him of breathing exercises he'd been taught when he became a hunter. Ways of regaining control of himself he'd forgotten because as he'd become more skilled, he had lost control less. If you're ready, Alpha. He nodded, and the beta started the replay. At the technician's insistence, Harry interrupted Alice. That's such an understatement. He returned to the Viper's Bane. Gralgiran smiled as he heard the glare in the tone. Where he has been assigned one of the luxury apartments normally reserved for dignitaries, he straightened. Who on the ship had access to that information? To that specific information? He'd made sure where Jeremy's apartment wasn't public knowledge because he wanted to minimize the odds the civilians would show solidarity with him by visiting. They'd been told he was afraid of all of them, but civilians didn't always understand that togetherness wasn't always the way to help. Our source has told us that he has settled into the large apartment and is enjoying freshly brewed coffee while working on his recovery. The beta stopped the replay. There's nothing relevant to him after this. Only a few hunters know where his apartment is, and there's only one person I can think of who knows Jeremy has real coffee. It could be an expression, the way we just have heated the Herr Chateau, even when we print it. Jeremy went over all the ways fresh brewed is different from fresh brewed is different from printed coffee. He wanted me to come have one on the station, but I don't care for it. Earthers don't use the term lightly. The quartermaster delivered the required items to make it personally, so he knows where your heart resides. And he knows something like this would annoy me. I can have him? No, I'll deal with him myself. He stood. If I don't, he'll just find a way to escalate until he gets me down there so he can enjoy my anger. Indulging a Halan is asking for trouble, Alpha, he snorted. Not indulging this one a little is asking for his namesakes to notice me in ways I'd rather no God did. Too late, buddy. He breathed to settle himself, then entered the quartermaster's domain. The mail wasn't in sight, which anywhere else he'd consider a bad sign, but the quartermaster took his duties seriously, and the moan was definitely sexual. An annoyed growl escaped. The head popped up. Then the quartermaster stood without his vest on, or anything else he expected. Captain? He did something with his hand below the counter, then looked down. Stop that, he whispered. The captain's here. Gralgiran narrowed his eyes. How can I help you, Captain? What game was the male playing? No smirking at being caught in inappropriate behavior, as if he'd planned it that way. No continuing or implying Gralgiran could join them, knowing quite well he wouldn't have sex with a male like him even without Jeremy there. Was that the game? With Jeremy not in his quarters, he thought that he could convince Gralgiran he could be respectable enough to be bedded. He forced his suspicion away. If that was the male's game, the best thing he could do was not act like he knew, and if it wasn't, I'd find out soon enough. Are you familiar with the Earther broadcast within Federation space? I have heard of it. And that is all you've done? I don't care what Earthers talk about, Captain. How about how well they'd pay for information? The male acted perplexed. I don't have anything they'd be interested in. Gralgiran took his tablet out and played the message he'd prepared for this denial. Our source has told us that he has settled into a large apartment and is enjoying a freshly brewed coffee while working on his recovery. You know where this apartment are. You know he has coffee to brew, quartermaster. I didn't. He got in the male's face. He got in the male's face and got too much of the sex-filled scent. Do not lie to me, quartermaster. Not this time. I'm not, Captain. I swear on my namesake that I would never do something like that to Jeremy. The use of the shortened name startled Gralgiran, and he almost snarled at the audacity. But he remembered Jeremy calling the quartermaster without his title, that they were friends, not that he could trust the expression on a Halan, not when sex covered any scent that might reveal his duplicity. I'm warning you, quartermaster, he said in as level a voice as he could. Do not use my heart in your games. Your namesake will not protect you if you do. Captain Gralgiran Elhavnir, I play no game where he's involved. I value his friendship more than my namesake's love. Liar, Gralgiran said before he could stop himself. The male shrugged. You can't expect that much honesty out of me, Captain. What will my namesake think of me? His expression turned serious. But I care for your heart, Captain. I value him as a friend, and yes, if he'd let me, I'd bet him. But that will be his decision, not mine. Gralgiran searched the face and the eyes, and I need to remember. Face, ears, and the eyes. In the end, he had to take him at his word. He'd given his warning, and if the male chose to ignore it, he could give his reason to his namesake when Zinilahran met him in the forest. He entered the workshop without announcing himself. He'd barely slept, waking each time he placed an arm over Jeremy and didn't encounter him. Elder Atarikna Dramar looked up from the item she was welding. Did you find anything new? I don't know how you expect me to find anything your experts haven't from those scans, Alpha. The actual machine would have been a lot better. If I could have, you'd have that. But the crime took place on the station, and they weren't going to let any of the evidence go. Even the scans are only because someone knew better than to tell me they'd been made while we were still docked. The Federation investigator didn't want anything about it leaving their control. You think someone from Covered Ops can get into their system and get me what they found out? I'm not giving that order, Hunter. She smiled. Understood, Alpha. She brought up images of, he had no idea what they were, other than technological. I sliced those scans along the line of the component as best as I could, which I'm sure your experts did too. I have no idea what I'm looking at. This is nothing I've studied or tinkered with. I'm not even sure I cut it up properly. She took an oblong box. Knowing what I do... No, knowing what it did, I'd say this is a neural interface, but I'm guessing. The tech in there is so tight, I can't understand what I'm seeing. Again, the real thing would have been best. We could have carefully taken it apart and maybe then figured out how the Earthers managed the thing and made the thing and worked out how to reverse the damage. What has been done to Jeremy can be undone. The Ridoshi mentalist said so. But that's because you pulled him out in time. What about the next time they do? The next time they do this, Alpha? When they know how far we're willing to go to save your heart. There will not be a next time, he growled. He'd already spoken to the people needed, and they'd agreed. As soon as Jeremy was no longer terrified of them, he would receive training. And that concludes chapter 87 of The Captain's Heart. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is available on Ream Story. And if you are looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.